First story is titled, Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my half-brother to have the same name as me? Original story. This is a really weird question, but for some reason it's turned into a whole issue. When I, 16 male, was born, my parents named me Giuseppe after my grandpa on my mom's side. My parents divorced when I was 5, but my mom got sick when I was 12 and passed away a year later, so I had to go live full-time with my dad. 2 years ago, my dad started dating Kaylee until they got married. I'm not close with Kaylee, but that's not because we don't like each other. We just don't talk a lot, and I'm always staying with my grandma or uncle on my mom's side when I'm not at my dad's. They found out they're pregnant months ago and also learned it's a boy. Ever since, Kaylee keeps saying she also wants her son to be named Giuseppe because she likes the name so much and how it sounds. I straight up told her that's my name and would be weird having my half-brother having the exact same name as me. Kaylee said it wasn't weird at all, and I don't own the name, so I can't say it's mine. She seemed really mad that I called it weird and said I should get used to it because that's the name they're deciding on. My dad backed her up at first, but we talked a little more. I just told him it didn't feel right for us two to have the exact same name, and maybe that could be a middle name or something if she likes it so much. He talked to Kaylee about changing it as a middle name so the first name can be something else, but she just got more mad. Now she says I'm ruining this whole experience by making a big deal of her name. My dad is in the middle. He's willing to back me up and not let Kaylee name their baby that, but says I should just let it go. My uncle, Dad's brother, and some of my friends agree it's weird, but Kaylee's being super cold, so I don't know if I'm wrong here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Personally, I find that really weird. I'm surprised your dad agreed to it at first. Dad only agreed because she's the one usually in charge and can withhold fun time. Not the a-hole, OP. That's just wrong, and I think the middle name would be fine, but should probably call him by the middle name then. Call me cynical and hardened to toxic families, but my worst assumption is she wants to replace this kid that she likes less with a new one by the same name. She's trying to cause a divide, and Opie should keep making us think about it. Not the a-hole. That's weird as F for two brothers to have the same name. Where is the baby's sense of identity when he literally has the same name as his brother? Where is his individuality? They did this to Vincent van Gogh, and it messed up his head. In the Netherlands, it was very common to reuse a name if a previous child was stillborn or died very young. Happened to my father-in-law, who got the name of a brother who deceased before he was born, 1943. Not the a-hole, obviously. If it were me, I would have said, I'm honored you would name your firstborn after me. I would be such a pretentious prig about it that she would no longer want to use the name. Yes, this is awesome. Maybe also double down, and since Opie's already so much older, pretend to muse aloud, I bet a lot of people will think he's really mine since it's named after me. So let's call him Junior in public. Now for the update 2 months later. My little brother was born last week, and I'm still the only Giuseppe in the family, and my grandpa. I did like some of you were saying to do, and had another talk with my dad to get him to understand. I'm glad everyone agreed it was super weird, and for bringing up that it could cause some identity issues in the future if we have the same name. Plus, the fact that it feels like she's trying to replace me and take a name away that she didn't even know about until she met me. My dad actually heard me this time, and he said he was sorry for not fully thinking about how this would make me feel. He listened more when I brought up the identity thing and how it could cause problems for us in the future, so thanks for mentioning that. But after that, he still wouldn't talk to Kaylee about changing her mind. My uncle, his brother, and his other family actually started giving him after I told them. They told him that's weird AF, and my uncle even told Kaylee too, which made her super mad. So after, my dad was like, okay, he's not gonna be named that at all. They had lots of fights over it because Kaylee wouldn't let it go. But my dad said there was no way in hell the baby was also gonna be named Giuseppe, and they were gonna have a big problem if she tries to name him that. Not gonna say it threatened to end things, cause I wasn't in the room when they had their fight, but it was pretty big the way he said it. So yeah, she gave up, but she was being super witchy to me for a while. It was awkward, but whatever. I was just glad she stopped with the name thing. The name they gave my brother isn't close to mine at all. Anyways, he's really cute. My dad says he looks just like me when I was born. Gonna be boring until I can play with him in a few months. Lol. Kaylee's still being different, but she doesn't say anything when I'm holding my brother. He cries a lot, but I love him a lot, and happy he's not Giuseppe 2.0. I find it weird that your dad didn't talk to Kaylee after you spoke with him. He only talked to Kaylee after his family tore into him. He is a spineless partner. If he was spineless, he wouldn't have stepped up in the end. I agree it didn't start well, but I think it didn't give thought to how big of a deal it actually was. Yes, very, very dense, I agree. But he did in the end put his foot down, and that is notable. Being spineless would have been bringing it up and then dropping it when she pushed back. If he was spineless, he would have 2 sons named Giuseppe. Give him a little credit. That sounds promising. Has anyone actually seen the birth certificate though? I'm not sure I'd put it past Kaylee just naming him Giuseppe anyway. Lol, yeah, my dad was there when they filled out the forms. This is a missed opportunity for you to go by OG, original Giuseppe, after your brother was born. I'd rather be the OG, only Giuseppe. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my mother-in-law for calling my son the wrong name? Even before my wife and I started to think about kids, her mother has wanted us to name a son after her father. Let's say the name is Sherman. It's not actually Sherman, but think of something equally generational, or old-fashioned perhaps. The important thing is, from day one, I have absolutely hated the name. At the end of 2020, my wife and I welcomed the baby boy to the world. Hooray! But since the day we announced the gender, her mother ramped up the Sherman campaign. You might even say it was to the point of scorched earth. Luckily, my wife and I gave each other 10 no questions asked rejects when it came to names. Obviously, Sherman was the first to go. Ultimately, we named our son something we both really liked. Let's say his name is Alexander. Over the past 3 months, my mother-in-law has been a constant presence. In the beginning, that was a really nice thing. Having an extra pair of hands was a godsend when the wife was waking up every hour to breastfeed and I was doing laundry, bottles, and 5S'ing on a never-ending loop. And frankly, it continues to help. She makes us dinner, she takes care of the baby, etc. But you can probably guess where the story's going. With increasing frequency over the last few weeks, she's taking to calling our son Sherm or Lil Sherm. She never calls him Alexander or Alex. The first dozen times I let it slide. The next dozen times it started to grate on me. The next dozen times, I started to remind her to call him by the right name in a joking way. The next dozen times, I reminded her in a matter-of-fact way to call him the right name. All throughout, I've told the wife about my building annoyance. We have a tacit agreement that we would handle our own families. She said she would talk to her mother about it. To be honest, I don't know when she did or how forceful she was, but clearly nothing had changed. Today I blew up at my mother-in-law. I told her how disrespectful it was to me and Alex that she continued to call him by the wrong name. That I didn't want him to be confused about his actual name. That she should call him by his real name or not come by anymore. She didn't really say much in response. I think she said something about how she's just been trying to help. She got her things, said bye to my wife, and left. My wife thinks I'm overreacting. She says it's just a nickname, no different from buddy or pal. Now she's especially upset because there's more stuff for the two of us to do. She hasn't said outright that I should apologize or anything, but I feel like she wants me to. Ultimately, I feel bad that I put my wife in this situation given she's still recovering, and maybe it really wasn't that big a deal. But I also don't feel bad making myself clear to someone who clearly is disregarding my wishes in my own house with my child. So I guess, am I the a-hole? To my wife, for not just sucking it up given all the help her mother has provided and might continue to provide? Edit. Many of you are asking why I did correct her from the get-go. I don't know how many of you have had kids, but in those first weeks when adjusting to new fatherhood, getting barely any sleep, and more worried about doing the right thing for baby, this honestly didn't even register. Even now, looking back, those first weeks were like a brain fog. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your son has the right to be referred to by his name. Pick a random name and start calling your mother-in-law that. Let's see how she likes it. Hi Dave, how are you? This is brilliant. Not the a-hole. She's not respecting any of you. You've asked her to not do that, and she hasn't. She's doing it on purpose for her own reasons. Not the a-hole. You did what was right. Although you and your wife might have to deal with the after effect of not getting an extra hand. But at least you set things straight, not just in the name aspect but in other aspects that are yet to come. No gain without pain. Not the a-hole. Calling a child by a completely different name isn't really a nickname. What is she trying to accomplish with this? Sherman isn't his name. It will never be his name. Did she think if she used it enough he would respond to that over his actual name? Personally, I think you should have been more direct from the beginning of her using the incorrect name, but you definitely aren't the a-hole. I get why your wife is upset at losing mother-in-law's help, but she shouldn't have allowed her mother's behavior to get so bad in the first place. Also, your mother-in-law couldn't be your third sets of hands forever anyway. Seeing as she couldn't respect something as basic as the name you chose for your child, what makes you think she will respect your future decisions as parents? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my parents we were adopting a child? I, 42 male, live with my wife, 40 female. We were married 12 years ago. My parents, my mother in particular, went out of their way to try and ruin it for us. My mother demanded an invite when my wife went dress shopping, then made fun of my wife when she tried on dresses and called one of the bridesmaids fat. My wife told her to leave. She tried to refuse, but one of the bridal attendants booted her out. She tried to post this long Facebook post about how awful she was treated, but she deleted it after I posted that it was funny how she left out, how she made fun of her and called one of her bridesmaids fat. My wife stonewalled her from any other wedding planning. My mother complained, but my wife just said she had a chance and she blew it. My mother hates that my wife won't be cowed by her like my sister-in-law is. My wife just doesn't get two flips about my mother or father or their boundary-stomping ways. My father gave a drunken speech at the wedding that was mortifyingly inappropriate and ended up getting himself and my equally drunk mother booted from the reception. We went so low contact it was practically non-existent after that. Present issue? We're in the final stages of adopting a child we've been fostering for the last few years. My parents have found out about this somehow and have been blowing up my phone since. They aren't happy about it. Not because I didn't tell them, but because how dare the child not to be the same skin color as us. My father accused us of getting a black market baby. I just hang up the phone and block them. But our child, who we got as an older child in foster care, asked if he was causing us problems. I said absolutely not. My parents were just awful people. Now, they're having other family members contact us to try and get information from my parents who are spinning some tale about how we're denying them access to their grandchild. They're conveniently leaving out the part where they threw a fit who was a different color than us and accused us of getting him off the black market. When I tell people what actually happened, their tune changes usually, but my brother, their golden child, is up my about how much of a a-hole I'm being to our parents and how I need to stop letting my wife brainwash me against them. I told him to go crawl back up our parents' butt and blocked him. I don't think I'm the a-hole here at all, but my parents and brother and a couple other family members think I'm the a-hole for withholding information from them. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. I was on your side within the first couple of sentences. Not the a-hole. Some people think that family is family and absolutely needs to be involved, when that is not the case. It is better to not have grandparents than have toxic ones. By the way, thank you so much for adopting an older child. As a kid that aged out of the foster system and had to join the army so that I had somewhere to live, most of us in the system knew that by the time we hit 7 to 8, we were stuck in the system until aging out. Good on y'all. It is better to have not grandparents than have toxic ones. Spot on. Family is what you make it. Live well, Opie. Enjoy your found family and the one you created. Not the a-hole. Here's the thing. When you act horribly and top it off by being racist, people will reasonably take steps to reduce unnecessary contact with you. Congratulations on the adoption. Currently not the a-hole. You would be the a-hole if you subjected your child to your parents, though. Your son should not have to go through life wondering why they're being treated differently from his or her cousins, and why grandma and grandpa make passive-aggressive remarks under their breath. Good luck. You and your wife are doing a wonderful thing in giving a child a home in the future. Not the a-hole. My sister is a different skin color than the rest of my family. My dad's stepdad is an awful human being and made several comments about it and made her feel less than. We no longer go to their home as a whole family and he is not allowed to talk to her. We had to explain that him being an a-hole is in no way her fault. It's his responsibility, and it's our responsibility as the people who love her to not subject her to racists and bigots. Especially if your kid is a teenager, please keep explaining that your family is awful and you adopted them to give them a family that loves them, not to subject them to more toxic people. Be prepared to cut your brother off too. Tell him, I know you disagree with my decision, but this is my child and I know what is best for them. If you can't agree to drop this and let me handle it the way I think is best, I will have to put our relationship on pause for the time being. And hold firm to those boundaries. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they have to pay for my wedding? I, female 28, am getting married to a pretty great guy, 32. He is a teacher and he is very happy with his decision to become a teacher while I work for a tech company, and we do pretty well financially. We have been together for 4 years and have finally decided to get married. His parents are happy and mine are overjoyed. One small wrinkle is that my parents expect us to have a massive church wedding with a few hundred guests, while we were thinking Jamaica this summer during his time off. We are willing to do what my parents want, but I am unwilling to foot the bill. My mom and I met with a wedding planner for an estimate $35,000 to $45,000. If we go to the resort we have picked out, it will cost like $10,000, and that includes paying for his parents and nephew to join us. My parents know how much money I earn and are insisting that I pay for the wedding myself. But we have been very clear. If they want to show off to their friends, they can pay for it. We even volunteered to throw in the money we would have spent on my in-laws for the destination wedding we want. But my mom says I'm being an a-hole by denying her the chance to see her only daughter married in front of friends and family. I'm not. I'm just not willing to pay for it. My parents can afford to pay for the wedding. It might just mean putting off replacing their car this year. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If they want the $40,000 wedding, then they pay for it. Otherwise, stick to your $10,000 plan. In fact, do that anyway. That's what you and your partner want, and this is your wedding. Paying for someone's wedding means you get a say. By rights, that means not paying for the wedding means you don't get a say. Fair's fair. I never understood that mentality. As a parent, I would want to help pay for my child's wedding simply because I love them and want them to be happy. I would not use it as a leverage to force my desires or ideas on a wedding that's not even mine. That's super controlling in my opinion. Most people start there, but assume their kid will think how they think and get frustrated with the difference between what they assumed and what is happening. It's a pretty self-centered way to parent, and only in rare cases where the kids are genuinely using the money in an inhospitable way do I think there is any excuse to intervene. For example, no chairs for a long ceremony when elderly relatives are invited or in-laws get an amazing table up front, but the paying parents are at the rejects table and back by the bathroom. That sort of thing. Not the a-hole. If it's that important to your parents, then they can pay for it. But beware of any strings that might come along with them footing the bill. They can have the wedding any way they want if they pay for it. The only thing set in stone is the date. I think they are going to find it difficult to get a venue and the rest set up in the time frame they have. My mother wanted a bigger wedding than I was willing to organize, so she did everything. I got my stress-free day and she got to watch me get married. Bonus, she paid for everything. I just showed up. Even if I had $40,000, I would not spend that amount of money of a wedding. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This is why I eloped. Lol. Honestly, the audacity for your mother to expect a wedding you don't want, and also not want to pay for it is astounding. Do what makes you happy. Don't back down on this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my newly engaged cousin my grandmother's engagement ring? So, my 22 female cousin Becky, 22 female, got engaged over New Year's. When Becky's fiancé asked my uncle's permission, my uncle offered my grandma's engagement ring. She died when we were 3 because he thought that he had a ring. The ring had already passed through 2 generations to get to my grandmother, so he wanted to continue the tradition. The ring wasn't willed to anyone, nor did she verbally say who she wanted the rings to go to as far as I'm aware. But my uncle thought that he had it because he was the oldest brother. Anyway, it turns out that after my grandma died, in the process of clearing out her flats and stuff, my dad ended up with her engagement ring and wedding band. And over COVID lockdowns, we were having a clear out to see what we could donate to charity shops, and we found the rings with some of my grandma's other stuff in the attic. I asked my dad if I could have the engagement ring because I think it's pretty, emerald and diamond. I paid to have the ring cleaned, replated, and have the settings checked. I now wear the ring fairly regularly because since starting my career after uni, I've started to wear more jewelry because I think it's a simple way of looking more put together and polished. My uncle, aunt, and cousin, we're both only children, have been hunting around their house for the ring since late October, and Becky's fiancé proposed with some costume jewelry. My parents and I didn't know about any of this at the time. Over the weekend, Becky had her engagement party. I wore the ring not thinking much of it because it went with what I was wearing, a green velvet jumpsuit. Of course, Becky and my uncle recognized the ring right away, accusing my dad of stealing from under them when my grandma died. He was there first, and my parents did the majority of the packing because she lived closer to us. And then accusing me of wearing it just to spite them, and telling me that I ruined the evening and demanding that I give the ring over. I told them I didn't know they were looking for the ring, and if they had mentioned it to me or my parents, we could have told them I had a ring. I don't want to give her the ring because I consider it my ring as it ended up with my dad and he gave it to me. I paid for it to be resized, /cleaned, /replated, /settings fixed. It's my favorite /most worn piece of jewelry because I like how it looks and the sentimental value of it being my grandma's. Because I don't really remember her, so it helps me feel connected to her. And my grandma expressed no preference to who the ring went to. They argue that Becky should get the ring because she's the daughter of the eldest son. My aunt is the only girl and currently has no children or plans to get married. And Becky got engaged first, so she should get the ring for that. Not the a-hole. If he didn't know he didn't have the ring for 19 years, he doesn't deserve the heirloom. And not mentioning the missing item to his own brother shows his narcissism of being eldest. And finally, no will? Finders keepers, sister. Keep wearing it in good faith. That was my thinking too. They for 19 years didn't realize they didn't have the ring. When you clear someone's house that you love, you remember what items you took and where they are. At least I do anyway. Would be interested in what a court would rule, as the argument would likely be that it's been safely in your dad's possession for years, was given to you by your dad, and you invested in having it made to fit you and be restored. I would be surprised if a ring was suddenly taken to give to another sibling's daughter who has got engaged first. And Opie acquired a ring in good faith as well. It's passed to a third party who actually spent money on it in reliance of the previous owner's representations. Many common law countries will likely recognize Opie as having some equitable interest in the property. Don't worry about such comments, Opie. This is a bit of a no-a-hole situation. With things like heirloom jewelry, especially something that would be a sentimental piece like an engagement ring, it should be discussed about where it goes. Once your dad found it, he should have mentioned it to his brother and they could have made a decision together. The gems could have been split to make both of you girls a ring, or they could have been kept whole and the determination of where it went could have been made collaboratively. You're now in an unfortunate position where you're attached to the ring, and your uncle and cousin are feeling like this was a bit sneaky and underhanded by your dad. Everyone is allowed to feel upset here, and truthfully, I think either everyone is going to need to be willing to compromise or cut their losses, but there will be an added strain to their relationship. You won't be wrong to keep the ring. We found both grandma's and grandpa's wedding bands at the same time, that I got cleaned and replated at the same time. I'm more than happy to let her have those rings. That way, her and her fiancé can have a matching set with a sentimental value. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not being able to pay for my parents' mortgage? My parents didn't buy a house when I was younger as my family couldn't afford it, so we lived in a rented house all the time. My dad used to work mostly lowly paid jobs, and my mom never really wanted to work. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18 and started working full-time in 2019 and moved in with my boyfriend. My boyfriend had a deposit for a house at a time and asked me to put down my name on the house and mortgage about half the payment. We bought our house in 2020 and it was relatively cheap. Since I got a house, my parents have been accusing me that I don't help them financially. They kept on persuading me to get a mortgage in my name for them. I kept on refusing as I didn't want to take another mortgage in my name and put myself in more debt. That's if the bank would even allow me to have more than one mortgage. Anyway, my parents got the hint that I won't get a mortgage for them. So, they both decided to work as many hours as they could to qualify for a bigger mortgage. My dad would always call me and guilt-trip me that my mom is only working because I wouldn't help them. To be honest, I felt like even if I applied for the mortgage and somehow got it, then I would have to pay for it as well, which I clearly couldn't afford. Last year, they saved up enough to put down a deposit for a house. They went and bought a new build, which tend to be more expensive as well. They moved into house last month. Since then, my mom decided that she doesn't want to work and keeps on calling to help them to pay for their mortgage. Both of my parents keep on insisting that I should pay at least half of it, which is about £600 a month. I keep on telling them that with everything going up in price, I barely have anything left at the end of the month, and I won't be able to pay. I don't really feel like talking to my parents anymore. They keep on making me feel guilty for their situation. Am I the a-hole because I can't afford to help them? Now for the top comments. We both know the only reason you're here is because you feel guilty, not because you don't know if you're an a-hole or not. You feel guilty because the people that you owe nothing to are guilt-tripping you, instead of doing what they need to for their lives. Obviously, you're not the a-hole, but your parents definitely are. I have no idea to the extent of your relationship, but me personally, I just start hanging up anytime the conversation gets there. Oh, someone's at the door. I'll have to call you back. Pizza's here. Later. I have to take a dump. Bye. And only whenever this group of grown adults that brought you into a world you never asked to be brought into start hounding you about paying their bills for them when you don't even live with them. Just know that they'd be financially using you if you don't immediately leave. It is the way they talk to me now that makes me question whether it is my fault. I have been trying to be strong and not fall for their words for a few years now, but I will try to use your tactics when a conversation gets there from now on. Your mother doesn't want to work and expects you to essentially do that for her. For the love of everything that's holy, never give them money, not even in an emergency. Because after the first emergency, the second will be there soon enough. It is absolutely not your fault. Good parents would never dream of pulling this nonsense on their child. I'm sorry your parents suck, but you need not, and should not, pay their mortgage because your mom is too lazy to work like a normal human being. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he never deserved to be a father? I have custody of my 12-year-old nephew Dex. My brother is Dex's dad. He and Dex's mom divorced when Dex was 2. When Dex was 4, brother met his current wife Shanna, and when Dex was 6, his mom died. A couple of years later, Shanna got pregnant and went into premature labor. My niece was stillborn, and a hysterectomy had to be performed to save Shanna's life after serious complications. It broke her. She was lost, and in her grief, she attempted to cling extra hard to Dex and have him be the child she could no longer have biologically. But Dex was not Shanna's biggest fan, and he did not want to just sit with her all the time and pretend she was his mom. My brother decided Shanna should adopt Dex. He was so hard on Dex for wanting to hang out with friends or for being in his room instead of around Shanna. She became more and more possessive of Dex. My husband and I noticed, and we stepped in to try and help. But my brother became angry and kicked us out and told us we were not helping Shanna. For several months, Dex was cut off from the rest of the family and went through a lot at home. In the end, he had a huge outburst in school, and CPS became involved. And from there, Dex was removed from my brother and placed with my husband and I. It was supposed to be temporary, but my brother failed repeatedly to change how he treated Dex. At that point, he was treating his son like he was the worst person in the world. Dex told me his dad called him evil after everything that happened with Shanna. He even told him he'd hate Dex forever for not helping her, when he could easily. It seems Shanna eventually did seek help, and my brother decided this was enough to get Dex back, but CPS and the judge disagreed. He then cornered me at Christmas and told me that he deserved to be back in his son's life, and that we were punishing him for parenting decisions that many others would make in his shoes. Meaning trying to force his kid to become his wife's kid, to gloss over the loss of her own child and her ability to have a child in the future. I told him he didn't deserve to be a father after the way he treated his own child. I told him Dex should have always been at the forefront of his mind, that he never should have verbally mistreated him for not faking things for Shanna. I said as a husband, he should have gotten her some real, professional help, and he should have supported his son in saying he didn't want Shanna to become his new mom, instead of calling him evil. Instead of telling him he was disgusted with him or comparing him to a historical figure who was responsible for the deaths of so many people. This actually happened on multiple occasions. I told him he should be ashamed of himself and leave Dex to live a happier and healthier life without him. My brother was furious. He even attempted to confront me again at work. A friend of his actually told me I should have been more understanding, and even if I'm angry, it was too harsh to say he didn't deserve to be a father. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Their behavior was so problematic that CPS had to remove him, and he then repeatedly failed to change his behavior thereafter. It's good Shanna's getting the help she needs, but it sounds like your brother still needs a fair amount of help too. Until then, do what's in the best interest of the child. I hope they don't decide to adopt or foster. They would both be terrible parents. The brother is incredibly cruel and abusive, while Shan is too fragile and unstable. Having an open or even a history of CPS would prevent you from being a foster care parent, at least in the area I am from. Hopefully private adoption agencies operate in the same manner. Not the a-hole. It seems to me your brother needs more help than his wife. Ask him to go to therapist. Were your words not polite? Yes. Was it justified? Definitely. That was what the courts ordered him to do when Dex was removed. He never went to a single appointment. Wow, then you're definitely not the a-hole. I can't believe how incredibly selfish and immature your brother is. While I understand your brother is panicked to try to help his wife who has just a miscarriage, forcing a very young child to be responsible for a stepmother's mental well-being is not the way to go about it. I am incredibly sorry for Shanna's loss, and I'm glad to hear that she's getting help. But it's clear that your brother needs help too. I do think that a gentler conversation should be pursued about him getting help. From you, or from friends/relatives that he's comfortable with. That being said, you're not wrong to want to protect Dex from it all. Not the a-hole, but your brother needs help. And maybe Dex needs to be made aware of what's happening, in a way that'd be comprehensible to a 6-year-old. He's 12 now, and he was aware of what was going on with him. His dad used it to shame and talk down to him repeatedly. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister use my son's yacht for her wedding? My son Thomas passed away a year ago at the age of 25. He was such a sweet soul. He was kind and sympathetic. Despite having suffered so much, he still had a joyful smile. He wanted to be an engineer, but unfortunately he couldn't continue his education. He was involved in a car accident and had a severe injury and became paralyzed. I did everything I could to help him regain his life, but what happened was devastating. We were spending time at the hospital while my family were getting together celebrating birthdays/weddings, etc., and excluded me and Thomas. I asked them to show up, at least show emotional support to Thomas, but they didn't visit. I took Thomas home and I became his primary caregiver. I found that Thomas was home 24/7 with no family visiting us, even on holidays. Every time I complained, my sister would suggest I put Thomas in home care. Eventually, I stopped begging them to visit and include Thomas in their events and check in on him. They treated Thomas like he was dead. He suffered from anemia. It affected his heart function and his health was getting worse. 4 months before he passed away, I decided to achieve at least one goal he had in his mind. He always wanted to get his own yacht and wanted to buy it himself. I sold a land I had for 5 years and I bought a yacht. I told him that it was his. He was overjoyed. We started spending most of his time there, on weekends and on holidays, till he suddenly passed away, and it was devastating. I couldn't visit the yacht till 6 months after his passing, as this is where I remember him the most. My family visited, made Facebook tributes, hanged pictures of him, and visited his grave. I was still upset with them, and I kept my distance. But last week, my mother and sister were visiting and asked if they could use my son's yacht for my sister's wedding this summer. I declined, but they talked about how expensive it is to rent a yacht and that mine was perfect. I corrected my sister, told her that's Thomas's yacht. Thomas, who they refused to visit and comfort during his dark times. My sister denied all that and said she didn't come to talk about the past, and that as her brother I should help out. I argued with her and my mother after they said I was declining out of spite, and called me selfish to punish them for Thomas' death. My brother said I was wrong because the family is keeping his memory alive by talking about him, and that I should get therapy. Otherwise, I'll be causing people to cut me out. Now for the top comments. OP, if they did not visit once while he had all this, say, fine, you can use his yacht as many times you've visited him during that time. Not a hole, by the way. This, not a hole. So sorry you're dealing with this. Not a hole for this. Very sorry for your loss. But you might benefit from therapy for you, not to appease your family. Thank you. I have a group of people who also experienced what I've experienced, and I meet with them every week and we talked for hours. Before that, I was in therapy. My brother doesn't know that because of how distant and the rest of the family have been. Not a hole. They talked about how expensive it is to rent a yacht and that mine was perfect. I corrected my sister, told her that's Thomas' yacht. Thomas, who they refused to visit and comfort during his dark times. My sister denied all that and said she didn't come to talk about the past and that as her brother I should help out. I argued with her and my mother after they said I was declining out of spite. So what if you are declining out of spite? She contributed negatively to your son's last few weeks. She's lucky you aren't agreeing to it, only to sell the yacht a day before. I mean, they even admit he has something to be spiteful for. They know what they did is wrong. They just don't care. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his wife out after they asked my wife to host their baby shower 2 weeks after she had a stillbirth? My wife and I were expecting our first baby boy together. We've been married for 3 years and my wife had 1 miscarriage before, and we were really optimistic about this pregnancy. But the unexpected happened and my wife had a stillbirth 2 weeks ago. It all happened so fast. We thought we planned for everything, but all that was unexpected. We were devastated to say the least. We haven't gone out nor talked to anyone during these times. My mom and family visit to check on us. They bring meals, books, and they ask how we're doing every day. Yesterday, my brother and his wife were visiting as well. His wife's pregnant with their second, and the moment they sat down, she started talking about her baby shower. My wife and I were getting uncomfortable as she went on about what they're going to do. My mom was sitting there when my brother's wife looked at me and my wife and asked my wife if she's willing to host her baby shower party. We were stunned. My wife almost cried while my brother just sat there, arms folded, and smiled at us. His wife said no one is available, so she asked my wife to do it, and that I'll be nice for her to change the mood. I immediately lashed out on her and told her to stop because she was acting selfish and inconsiderate of what we're going through. She played dumb as I reminded her that we just lost our son and asked how could she possibly think it's okay to even ask something like that. My brother told me to calm down, but I lost my temper. My wife went inside a room and I kept telling them what an insensitive request my sister-in-law just made. Shockingly, no one thought it was a big deal. We got into an argument, and my brother blew up when his wife started crying. I told them to leave, and my mom didn't like that I was yelling at them and lashing out. After they left, my mom reminded me that they're the ones sending meals and checking on me and my wife. She berated me for half an hour and told me to wait till they come down and apologize because I was out of line with how I behaved. I haven't talked to them. My dad says whatever happens, I shouldn't treat them like that and that my anger was misplaced and I hurt the people around me, which was unacceptable. 2 things to point out. I'm not sure about them lacking intelligence because they're both intelligent enough to obtain a degree. My sister-in-law is a school secretary and my brother is a dentist. Also, I really thought my wife's family were worse because they wanted to have some of our baby's things to take with them before leaving town after they came. We're in low contact with them. Now for the top comments. Not a hole. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. I hope you guys are getting okay. Secondly, literally reading that filled me with anger on your behalf. How insensitive and selfish can you be? Also, seriously? Planning a baby shower will change your wife's mood? She's not upset because she banged her toe. She lost a baby. Your wife was almost crying and they still didn't stop? You were well justified. This is perfect. I'm livid just reading the post. Sister-in-law and brother are truly horrible people. I genuinely can't think of exactly what thought process led them to think this is a reasonable request. After they left, my mom reminded me that they're the ones sending meals and checking on me and my wife. Yeah, and now you know why. Not out of love, but out of attempting to buy compliance through indebtedness and guilt. You don't owe them a damn thing. There was no way in hell any reasonably adjusted person would be that tone deaf. That was malicious, and I admire your restraint. Not the a-hole. Yeah, I felt awful after my mom told me that. She managed to make me feel as if I created this terrible situation. Not the a-hole. Forget them for now and talk to people who love and support you. Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law is tacky as hell and completely oblivious to decency and social norms. Your mom as well, and fortunately, your brother should have told her to shut the F up about her baby shower. You protected your wife as best you could, considering the circumstances. Sending people aid when they're having a crisis does not give you the right to treat them like robot slaves. The next story is titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told my mom that suing would be pointless even though it means a lot to her? I feel like an a-hole even thinking about this, but I also feel she needs some hard truth. When me, 25 male, and my sister, 27 female, were 9 and 11, my mom had a baby, our sister. She lived for 6 weeks before passing away from SIDS. As most can imagine, my mom was never the same since. The same day our sister passed away, CPS stepped in and removed me and my sister from the home. I didn't know why at the time, but she was awarded custody of us 2 years later. During this time, my sister, who was placed in a different home, was dealt a horrible hand, which I can't explain here. But because of this, when she was released into my mom's care, she was just broken. Started drinking heavily at 13, dropped out of school, etc. Mom refused to get her into therapy for help because I dealt with the death of a child and worked through it myself, so you can work through this yourself too. My sister never went into full detail about the events she was faced with, thank God, because that probably would have landed me in jail. Anyways, my mom spoke of suing DHHS for years following that. Went to law school to become a lawyer to better her case and everything. 8 months ago, she put in the paperwork to sue DHHS for taking us back then. The next week, I was helping mom move and came across all the paperwork and files from our DHHS case years ago and I took them. I shouldn't have, but I did. I went digging. Turns out that my mom's ex-alcoholic boyfriend was a main suspect in my sister's passing. So we were lied to. It wasn't SIDS. It also stated in the paperwork that my mom was given a strict order to go no contact with her ex while we were in state custody, and she failed to do so. That's why it took her 2 years to get us back. Given that I now know all of the information, I want to explain to my mother that suing would be a giant waste of time and money. She has asked us to help her out with lawyer fees and to speak on the stand on her behalf. My sister, still broken, has outright refused and has gone no contact. She was older and knew then that my mom was hiding something about the case and doesn't trust my mother and holds a lot of resentment. Anyways, would I be the a-hole if I told my mom that she shouldn't sue and that now that I know everything about the case, I will not be vouching for her on the stand? Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry you have been through all this. If you haven't already, get yourself some therapy. I have gotten myself into therapy and it has helped me a lot. Unfortunately, my sister hasn't been so fortunate. She tried getting help through therapy and was basically told that she was lying and it was all in her head. What kind of awful therapist told her that? Did multiple therapists say this independently or was it just one? It was 3 different therapists, which is even more messed up. I think they thought she just wanted meds, honestly. Was it when she was younger? I hate to say this, if you haven't considered it, but your mom could have collared the treatment. She checked herself into therapy on her own when she left our house at 16, and then tried again 3 years ago because she still has nightmares and severe post-traumatic stress disorder. The last therapist she went to told her that she has kids now. If she was to get diagnosed with mental health issues, then it would be possible that CPS would look into her stability and possibly deem her unfit. She immediately pretended to be okay and took herself out of therapy because of that one comment. She won't go back. Not the a-hole. As much as your mom tries to play herself as the victim, she's at fault. She lied to you. She contacted her presumably dangerous boyfriend when she was ordered not to, and maybe most importantly, she denied therapy for your sister. Mom refused to get her into therapy for help because I dealt with the death of a child and worked through it myself, so you can work through this yourself too. That's appalling and shows your mom's true character. How selfish and a crap human does someone have to be to say something like that to her clearly traumatized and hurt daughter? It sounds like the "she was never the same since" is something she wants you to believe so as to use it as an excuse whenever she screws up / mistreats you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I will never be in her stepson's kid's life? My mom and stepdad married when I was 6 and his son was 9. We have never been close and he has never cared for a relationship with me. From the ages of 8 to 15, we fought like crazy, and he made the fact we'll never be family clear to me. He also doesn't like my mom or our extended family. He has not said a single word to me in almost a decade, and I'm fine with it. He invited me to his wedding because of the pressure from his dad, but did not speak to me. Neither did his wife. I actually didn't want to go, but my parents were really hoping it would bring some good, so I went for them. But after that, he decided that from then on I would not be included in anything regardless of whether his dad wanted him to include me. He and his wife had a baby recently and there is a small celebration planned. I am not invited, but my mom wanted me to send a gift anyway. I told her that wasn't going to happen. She said it would show me attempting to be a good aunt. I told her I will never be his kid's aunt, and that I am not part of his family and he is not part of mine. That I understood it was hard for her and my stepdad to see us not getting along, but he has made his feelings clear and I have no interest in forming a relationship with this child. I told her that child will always be a stranger to me, and it's okay if they have emotions about that, but they can't change things, because the lack of relationship is a fact by now and not something that will change. She was upset and told me I should still care because I am an aunt, whether he likes it or not and whether I like it or not. She said we are family and we lived as siblings for a large part of our life. My mom told me to consider my actions, and now I'm wondering if she is right in any way. I don't know if I was a little too harsh when I have zero issues with the baby. It's just a fact I will never be their aunt. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. No way. You shouldn't be expected to continuously go above and beyond for someone who's made it clear they don't want to have a relationship with you. Exactly. What she's doing is guilt-tripping you. Probably because you've been the most reasonable one up to date. It's easier to guilt you to keep at the relationship than try and convince her stepson to not be an a-hat. It's really unfair to you. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Relationships require consent of both, and failed relationships are a natural thing. Forcing one side to approach a side that doesn't care or want a relationship is folly. Not the a-hole. Just because your parents got married doesn't mean you're siblings. He made clear what he thinks of you, so why should you even think about being an aunt for that child? Exactly. Following the same logic, Opie is not an aunt to this child. Not the a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.